Donald J. Trump is now president of the United States.
Whenever you want to have a debate with a fake liberal that always resorts to violence.
We need to wake people up. Welcome back. I'm David Knight, and we're talking to Shari Dovale of Redoubt News. She has been following the Bundy trial, but before that, the trial of other people who were associated with that protest. And they're trying to put these people away. They've been in jail, she points out, since January of 2016. Each person is charged with 10 felony accounts, and each man could be sentenced to more than 100 years in prison. We have under the Constitution a right to gather and to address our grievances to the government, but there are other issues involved here. Something has just come out in this trial as there's been some movement here in the government's admission that there were snipers there. And that's one of the reasons that we went to cover this, was to find out what was going on and to make sure we didn't have something happen like had happened in Waco. We felt that their lives were in danger, and there was a legitimate reason for people to gather there to protect them, to stop violence from happening, and they did stop the violence from happening. But joining us now is Shari Dovale. Thank you so much for joining us, Shari.
Good morning, David. Thank you for having me.
You've got a series of articles about things that have happened this week. You call it the trial of the century in your article on Redoubt News. Summarizing the week, summarize what has happened for us this week.
Well, we've had some bombshell stuff happen in the courtroom this week. One of the largest things that I have seen come out in any of these trials is that the government has been lying all over the place. I mean, go figure. You never think they would do that. But they've been recording privileged phone calls between attorneys and their clients.
Wow.
That is absolutely huge. That's one of the basic tenets of our judicial system. And
yeah, and this is a troubling thing we're seeing even like in the Paul Manafort situation. We've got a special prosecutor. There is no special prosecutor law that expired in 1999. There's no process for review or for appointment or for oversight. And we've got this guy, Robert Mueller, who compelled the attorney for Paul Manafort to testify against him, said he's going to do it again. And now we have in the Bundy trial, we have the government recording privileged calls between client and attorney, penetrating that to do anything that they can to get these people. They will ignore every basis of our law, won't they?
Yeah, they're making this stuff up as they go, is what it seems like. Wow. You know, they have a whole different set of rules in the federal court system than they do in every other system.
You know, I don't think they have any rules. I think they believe that they're free to do whatever they wish. They make up their mind. They want to come after somebody. And a lot of people say, you know, hey, the reason they didn't continue the special prosecutor thing was because they weren't going after a particular crime. They were going after an individual. And I think that's what we see happening here in the Bundy trial. They're going after these individuals, and they will rig anything that, you know, take things off limits, shut down testimony. But some of the things that you pointed out here is the testimony about shredded documents that were found right after the protest in 2014. Tell us about that.
Yeah, when the BLM left the compound, the Patriots went in there and looked around, and they found bags of shredded documents. And they looked at these little pieces, and they can see some, you know, you'll find a piece with a little bit of writing or something on there, and they could tell that these were official documents. And they, you know, were concerned that these documents could have helped the defense, so they're trying to compel testimony on this. Well, it turns out that the U.S. Attorney's Office, starting with Daniel Bogdan and then moving on to Stephen Myrie, was deeply involved in this entire operation from start to finish. Stephen Myrie actually directed Special Agent Kent Kleeman to investigate the shredded documents and reported directly to Myrie, at least weekly. Myrie sent another prosecutor, Nadia Ahmed, with him, which they've been trying to downplay. But she's turned into a fact witness for this entire investigation, but not being questioned on it. They never asked the key questions. Who ordered you to shred the documents? Why are you shredding the documents? Nobody's, you know, Kent Kleeman never bothered to ask those questions during his investigation.
And you report in your article that in the course of looking at this, that he testified that he learned of a, quote, hurried shredding event. But any information about this would be privileged. We are not allowed to know anything about this event or the basis of it, who did it, why they did it, or any of the information that was there. Kind of sounds like what we're seeing with Hillary Clinton and the DNC destroying disk drives, deleting emails, and wiping them with bleach bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that also extends out to the cameras. They had found cameras perched over the road pointed directly at the Bundy house. Now, the government's been denying all along that there were any cameras at all. Now it was proven that there were cameras, and the government, of course, is saying, well, there was only one camera. And they never watched it, they never recorded it, and they took it down every day and put it back up every morning.
And they're also saying that there are no existing tapes of that camera, that it was just being recorded and just went nowhere, right? And does that defy credibility that the government, who is putting surveillance cameras out there trying to get evidence against people doing something wrong, that they would not keep any tapes of that? That is just absolutely absurd.
You know, even the judge found that whole line, those statements were not credible.
Yes.
Yes. And this is a judge that has been completely on the government side every step of the way. And she just does not see it as reasonable. That's why she ordered the delay in the trial and hearings on these issues.
Well, you know, what has come out in terms of looking at these cameras, and in terms of saying, as you said, that they said, oh, we only had one camera, and oh, we didn't record anything, so we don't have anything to give to you. She said, let's think about this, didn't she? She said, I'll give you a little bit of time to think about this. In other words, you guys want to go on the hook for committing perjury. But the other thing that came out of this was the acknowledgement that there were snipers, and I know that there were snipers. When I was there, I had individuals, and unfortunately, we were going to try to set the thing up and take pictures of it with the camera, but we got called away because we had to do an interview. We were doing live reports from there, and we had to get back to where we could actually get a signal to do the interview. But I had a guy say, hey, come over here. I've got you can see the snipers out there right now with my my binoculars. Maybe we can get something that can be seen on a camera to record this. So I knew that was happening there. And they're denying that there were any snipers. But why is that important? It's important because it shows that there was a threat against these people, at least a perceived threat. And that would be the basis for people to come and to support them, which is exactly what was going on.
Absolutely. The government has alleged that Mr. Bundy called people to his home under a bunch of lies.
Yes.
And
trying to create a revolution or whatever. He was saying, hey, look,
exactly.
We even wrote articles at the beginning of the week, got picked up by Drudge. Is this going to become another Waco situation? Let's make sure that this doesn't happen. Let's go find out what's going on. That was the basis of us going out there and taking a look at it. It's the basis of Fox News and others who went out there from CNN and MSNBC. They went out there and reported on this stuff because they thought it was going to turn into a violent confrontation.
Absolutely. And it's all coming true that people are starting to wake up and see that the government is the ones who are lying.
Yeah, the government were the ones who were acting aggressively. Nobody was pointing guns at the government. It was the government who was pointing guns at people. It was the government who was making threats. It was the government who was getting aggressive with people. We saw this over and over again.
Absolutely. They started everything. They continued the problem. And then Daniel Bogdan told Dan Love to shut it down because he wants to prosecute everybody. And that's the reason that they left.
And, of course, Dan Love, the one who shall not be named, this guy who's disgraced and dismissed because of criminal activity that he had committed. He was the special agent in charge, given or taking dictatorial powers, but he is now redacted. No information can be said. Nothing can be said about this guy. He cannot be mentioned. And as you just pointed out, it was the deputy, it was an attorney general, and I'm not sure exactly what his office was. Department of Justice had shut this down.
He was the U.S. attorney for Nevada.
Okay, all right. And he shut this down, saying, let's let this go. We'll come back at them in court.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what he did. And he was removed by Trump during the big...
oh, he was? Good.
Yeah, he was one of those. And Stephen Myrie is now the acting U.S. attorney. He's the one prosecuting this case.
Well, you know, what I would like to see President Trump do, and we have mentioned this several times. I know Roger Stone has. He has the ear of President Trump from time to time. And Roger Stone and all of us here would like to see justice done We would like to see a pardon for the Bundy family and for anybody who was accused of going there to stand as essentially a group to stand around them and stand with them to make sure that the government that was using snipers and had snipers pointed all around that area had been attacking people, to make sure that the government didn't get violent against people. That's why everyone was there. Thank you so much for joining us, Shari Dovale. Stay with us, folks. So we're going to have another guest coming up in the next hour. Lee Stranahan is going to talk about the moves against RT, forcing them to register as foreign agents here in the United States. What is going on with that? Of course, I'm sure he'll have something to say about Judge Roy Moore and the scandal that has erupted. I'm David Knight. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I've got a couple of clips here. We just talked to Shari Dovale with RedoubtNews.com. She's been covering the Bundy trial in great detail. She's got a couple of articles that you'd be interested in reading. Government recording privileged phone calls with attorneys. It's not just the Bundys. It's not just Paul Manafort. It's not just President Trump and others. This is a pattern of behavior that stretches across our government. We have now a lawless government. As I pointed out yesterday when we were talking to Ty Clevenger, the individual who is trying to at least get Hillary Clinton and Comey disbarred. Comey for lying under oath, Hillary Clinton for destruction of evidence and violation of national security protocols. They at least disbar them. And he's trying to get information from them. But what he said was, we have now a radicalized subjectivity. Do they want to follow the laws? No. I mean, you could call it lawless corruption. You could call it radicalized subjectivity. Yes, the subjectivity comes in when the courts make their decisions and shut down laws. But for the most part, what we're seeing here is just lawless corruption within the Justice Department. That's what we're seeing here in the Bundy trial. I've got a couple of clips here from Jason Goodman. He sent this to us, and he was talking to the lawyer for the Bundys after this trial. This underscores some of the stuff we were just talking to Shari Dovale about from Redoubt News. I want you to hear what he said about today we learned there were snipers. Here's the first part of this.
So today or yesterday for the first time, we learned that in fact there were FBI snipers surrounding the ranch, that were surveilling the ranch, and there were cameras that were located around the residence.
Crank up the audio a little bit.
That our clients were in fear for their own safety and reached out to other people to witness and to protest what they heard as a government overreach was in fact consistent with the facts and what actually happened.
As far as what happened
Okay,
today,
hang on a second. He's standing a little bit over distance. We've got another clip here. It's a little bit closer. I'll stop this right now. What you heard him say, maybe, if you could hear that, was he said, today what we learned was that there really were snipers, that people were coming there because they were concerned about the safety of these individuals, that the government was getting aggressive with that. Now, I want to play the next clip for you, where he says, don't you think it's not even credible that they say that there was a video camera there that's now come out, as Shari was talking about, that came out in court that, yes, they not only did they have snipers there, but they had surveillance cameras all around the place. But of course, even though they were trying to get something on the Bundys or the people who were there, and they didn't, because they weren't doing anything criminal, you have a right to peacefully assemble. You have a right to stand with other individuals when you think that the government is going to get aggressive and start to harm people, and we'd already seen them do that. It's basically what we saw in Catalonia. Farmers showed up with their tractors and said, we're not going to let these jackbooted thugs from Madrid come down here and shut down the election. So we're going to stand together. And people did stand together. They did it peacefully. And what was happening, what I saw, in spite of the spin of the government, I saw people peacefully standing with the Bundys and refusing to back down and to say that, well, shoot us if you want to shoot us. They didn't pull their guns out of the holster of the people that I was standing with. They basically walked to the wall as the government was threatening to shoot people over this situation. But here's this other clip where he's talking about the video camera that was there, they now admit, but now say that no recordings exist. Here's that clip.
Don't you find it slightly less than credible that in 2014 a video camera is not going to be recorded, that it's just sending images into the abyss?
You know, so here's
This is the lawyer for the Bundy speaking.
Normal jury instructions that jurors receive are you're supposed to use your common sense. And the judge yesterday basically said, you know what, it just doesn't seem reasonable or logical to me that the government would spend so much time and effort and then not record it. And so that's why we had the hearing today. I mean, ironically, the attorney, the U.S. attorney stood up and said, no, we didn't record it. and not that I'm not aware of anybody taking notes. I mean, does that seem consistent with the facts? I mean, but what she did say is she says, well, I'm going to have to take your word at it for right now, but I'm ordering you to disclose any evidence that you have of any type of recording or any type of notes or any type of information that would lead to additional discovery regarding that.
Again, the judge, who is very biased against the defendants, even she said, I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think about this, whether you want to get involved in perjury and obstruction of justice. Stay with us. We'll be right back. I'm David Knight.
What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the end of our chromosomes.
And when it runs out, you start dying. Secure your DNA force today at InfoWarsLife.com.